Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
And welcome to episode 23 of the Knowledge Pool.
See, I knew you couldn't leave it hanging.
Yeah.
Leave what hanging?
Uh-huh.
So, we're
Episode
back,
number.
and... Oh, right, okay. Well, you know, that's what some podcasts do.
Uh-huh.
Just listen, I should be writing. It's a good podcast. Hi, everybody. We're here to talk about Magic the Gathering. I'm Step. With me is Laura.
Hello.
And Tams.
Hiya.
And, how's it going, guys?
It's good. Lots and lots and lots of magic again this week.
Yeah, it's been pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is odd because usually summer is a bit quieter magic related.
Yeah, but it's
was-
been crazy.
The GP.
Yep.
There was the GP.
The GP. Can we do it again this week?
No, because
Can I day 2 again this week?
Yes.
Probably.
Cool. I'm in.
We've got other things that we're doing this week, but first we're going to talk about the news.
Ooh, what's new in Magic, Laura?
Well, first of all, they've announced the HasCon promos, which can be purchased at HasCon for $30 for the 3. It's kind of interesting the franchises that they chose to tie in. One is Transformers, one is Dungeons and Dragons, and one is Nerf. So, of all of the Hasbro properties, you could say that those are the 3 most associated with boys.
Yeah, I'm really upset that they didn't use My Little Pony.
Me too.
To me, that made
Absolutely.
the most sense. Other than Transformers.
Well, I think Transformers makes the least sense.
I think
actually.
Dungeons and Dragons makes the most sense.
'Cause it's also
that's a
a
given.
Wizards property,
That's
right?
a given.
And Nerf is like their Hasbro's biggest thing.
But you can buy My Little Pony sleeves.
Yes.
So I'm like, why?
Because they are not smart enough to know what Magic players actually like.
Well, I think, especially given how much Wizards, specifically Wizards, I suppose, is trying to promote women in Magic, or at least are trying to give the impression that it is a diverse group of people playing the game, even at a casual level. I just thought it was interesting that they kind of pointedly took the 3 more, quotation marks, boy-focused franchises.
And even that is, like, not really accurate, because My Little Pony has as much male audience as female audience.
But I wonder how much to the middle-aged, upper echelon executive types would
that doesn't matter at all.
understand.
Well, yeah,
that.
given the goal of their marketing is to market My Little Pony for girls. So,
But my point is, like, how many of the people at Wizards who are making those decisions would know that just as many guys like My Little Pony
Well, I
as
don't
girls?
think it was Wizards' decision.
No.
I think
Hasbro?
Hasbro was
Yeah.
like,
Fair enough,
we need
even
a
more
card
so.
for this, this, and this.
Even more so
Because
then.
those are our biggest selling things.
or those are the market that we are trying to tie into Magic.
Yeah.
Which, you know.
And
Nerf.
on the other side, I'd also like to mention that I personally know more girls who play D&D than men.
Yeah, there's certainly a fairly diverse gender population for that too, I suppose.
I think it's still more guys play D&D overall, but like just my cross-section of people I know, it's more women.
Me too.
So
Yep, same.
that's kind of interesting.
But what about the cards in general? Are they interesting enough to...
They're fun.
I like the sort of Dungeons and Dragons on a flavor basis.
I kind of think it's cool, and it will be fun to play within the drafted set.
I think that's why it
Yeah.
specifically fits into Unstable. Not only is D&D a Wizards property, but it's also the most unlike card, I guess.
Do we remember what the text says, basically?
Yeah, so it's 3 to cast, 2 to equip, just like most of the other swords. And it gives you protection from rogues and clerics. And then I want to say when you do combat damage, you essentially create a 4/4 flying dragon token, and then you roll a d20, and if you roll a 20, you get to do it again.
Yep.
And it's
until
like,
you stop
and it's
rolling
+2 +2
d20s.
or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
sounds really sweet, to
It's
be
like
honest.
the swords from Mirrodin. It's a riff on that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So yeah, the tokens the cards are all going to be silver bordered, and the sword itself is going to be in the unset.
So are they going to be available to people who cannot afford the ridiculous cost of...
Yes, you can buy them online.
Okay.
After the con.
And I imagine their limited run will mean that they will go up in price because people are going to want them.
Yeah, so if you're at HasCon and you have $30 in your pocket,
you should probably
a good investment.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, that's kind of cool.
So next up, Steph, maybe you wanted to talk about the Commander deck quotation mark spoilers?
I do. So we have had the 4 decks for the upcoming Commander set spoiled or leaked.
Yeah, they were published in a Japanese magazine.
Yeah, so 6 of one, half dozen of the other at this point. It's not like someone stole this information. Mm-hmm. It's out there. It's maybe... I think they're still not aware of how fast things travel around the internet. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or maybe it wasn't supposed to be published quite this early and they bumped it up or something.
Sure. Anyway, the 4 decks for this year's Commander series are vampires.
Specifically Mardu.
Okay, so Mardu vampires. Grixis wizards.
Yeah. So not just humans, wizards. You
heard
heard it here first.
I like that. That's good.
Selesnya cats. And 5-color dragons.
Yeah.
And I'm going to buy those and sleeve them up and put them in brand new deck boxes inside an archive on my shelf. And there's going to be a video when they come out that has me doing all that. So if you like watching people fiddle with cards, you should check that out, in a couple of months.
We are going to play them, though, right? Because those seem pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to play Commander.
This set is like,
they're all
you want to play the cats.
Good. Yeah, I also want to play the dragons. I also want to play Mardu vampires. Come on!
Yeah.
I want to play the wizards.
Of course you do.
So anyway, I think one of the really interesting things is that, contrary to at least the past few years' worth of Commander anthologies, or Commander, sets, this one is not symmetrical. There's a 5-color list, there are 2 3-color lists, and then there's a 2-color list.
I really like that. By the way, called it, just saying. I really like the fact that they have not just gone 5-color everything or 2-color everything, because they said that these were going to be tribes, and these are colors that are specific to those tribes. Like, I could also see a red-white cat list maybe, but green and white are the cat colors.
Yeah.
So making 5-color cats would just be...
forcing it?
Yeah. Whereas 5-color dragons, that makes sense.
Absolute sense.
Maybe you could do 3-color dragons and do like 3 colors in each deck, but then you might as well just do a 5th and do
considering
the whole thing.
with cons we had Dragon Lords that took up the entire color pie.
Yeah. I think that's great.
I mean, you could do it 4-color and leave out green, because green dragons are probably the least of the 5.
I'm sorry, Atarka?
Okay.
What?
Well, we don't know if any of the Dragon Lords are going to be in the set.
Well, who cares? It's for Commander. You can put your own Dragon Lords in there.
Sure. Anyway, like 5-color dragons make sense. Mardu vampires make sense. Again, you could do black-red or black-white or even black-blue vampire or mono-black vampires, but...
you'd be missing out a lot.
Yeah, and they're making sure that these decks are customizable for future,
iterations
retools.
of it, yeah.
Which is an important point that has done the past Commander decks super well.
Absolutely. So I'm super looking forward to them. I am a little sad that there's not a 5th, but on the other hand, the fact that they're already so asymmetrical, and the fact that it's far easier to get together a 4-player Commander game than, say, a 5-player Commander game. It makes me really enthusiastic to get these and play them.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Loading Ready Run do the Commander decks from last year, and they could only do 4 of the 5 because that's what their table could support.
Yep, right? I watched the SCG Commander Versus series, and same problem. And then you have the leftover deck.
Yeah.
Poor leftover deck. Nobody loves
and
you.
It was kind of sad. I was like, oh, come on, can you spread it? But no, they couldn't.
Yeah.
So this time there's 4 decks. They all look, so far,
sweet.
What we know, sweet. I think... What do you think of Grixis Wizards?
I think it's sweet.
Yeah?
Look, it means I can play my favorite God Pharaoh, is all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, yeah, historically blue is obviously the wizard color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there are certainly wizards...
Well, blue and red.
Well, yes, sure. So blue and red. But there are definitely good interactions with black. And I think it makes sense to have it in there.
I'm also wondering if, like, we've seen the cat dragon in the dragon deck. I wonder if between the Mardu vampires and the Grixis wizards, there's like a
vampire wizard?
Vampire wizards, or maybe wizard cleric or something. You know, like, we'll see when the whole lists are
Or
spoiled.
there's a dragon wizard.
Is there?
I don't know. There could be.
There could be.
It could
There
be
very well
blue-red.
be.
I mean, it could be another Niv Mizzet or something.
I think they'd most likely just print the original Niv Mizzet.
Was he a dragon wizard?
No.
Missed opportunity?
I think he was a legend, wasn't he?
I don't
I don't know. Anyway, they are looking sweet, and we will have more on them when we have more.
Yep.
Now I guess we're on to talking about the Pro Tour, which
Yeah.
just happened this past weekend.
It did. Main criticism is that it was in Japan, which made it a very awkward time zone for just about everybody. For us from here, it's, like 15 hours difference or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, it's...
I remember when the Olympics were in Japan,
Yeah.
and it was... And I'm an avid Olympic watcher, and it was such a pain in the butt. I'm getting up at the weirdest times, and it's just not...
And especially these days, when you can just watch the VODs on YouTube, or Twitch, or wherever they are these days, like, unless you're dedicated or content creator or are going to be up at those times anyway, there's no reason to watch it live. You can just watch the replay, skip past the commercials. That's the reason everybody likes DVRs. Like,
no, I feel like most of the content being made with these criticisms, us included, were from, like, Canada, the US, you know?
but so are most of Magic's players.
Yeah, well...
Statistically, their largest percentage of Magic playing populations are somewhere in the Pacific to Eastern time zones.
Yes. Do you think that any of that has to do with the fact that more is covered and there are more bigger tournaments over here?
I don't necessarily think so. I think that there's, Magic is North American company. So I think it is easier to appeal to a culture that you are familiar with.
That's fair.
And, I mean, we have the history.
That's also fair.
So, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that they have the Pro Tour in different locations every year. I mean, or every 3 months, I suppose. Like, I know there have been a lot of people just talking about things that they could do differently to improve the viewing numbers live on Twitch. But, there are certainly advantages and disadvantages to trying to cater to that sort of thing as opposed to just continuing to travel around the world, which is kind of the slogan of the Pro Tour. Travel the world, play Magic.
I kind of like the idea that I've heard about separating zones and having, like, regional Pro Tours.
Yeah,
and
that's
then...
the way a lot of other esports divide things up. They have a North American league, they have a European league, they have an Asian league.
Do they have a world championship at some point?
Yeah.
It's a cool idea.
But
where they take the top players from each league and jam them together. And that seems like a sweet concept.
Sure, but, I mean, A, we already have Worlds.
Yeah.
And B, the Pro Tour is every 3 months.
It's true. Well...
So, if they want to continue having the Pro Tour every 3 months, I don't know if that would work as a system.
Yeah, the way Magic generates its material, like they have a new set every 3 months, that makes sense. Because you could just say, the European circuit is this Pro Tour and the Asian circuit is this Pro Tour, but that works less great for everybody, so...
Yeah, it's awkward. It really just depends on what their goal is.
Yeah.
And
I really need to start watching Pro Tour coverage.
It's gotten much better lately. They've increased the number of screensaver slides, so you're slightly less bored staring at it. I still tend not to watch them live, just because whenever I tune in, they're doing an interview, or they're at a commercial, or they're shuffling, and then I go, I could do this, or I could do something else and watch this on on a video later.
Yeah, I could watch a draft now and then catch this when I can cut everything out.
Yeah, so that is certainly a problem, but, fun and interesting things that happen in the Pro Tour.
Yes, tell us about the decks.
Mono red.
Yes!
It's apparently everywhere.
I'm so happy!
Yeah, so 5 of the top 8 decks were basically a variation of a Ramonat Ruins deck.
And not just the same deck, though, which I like. Although,
Was there lots of variations? Or some
They were
variations?
fairly close, but certainly different just because it's a Pro Tour, so not everybody was publishing their deck lists ahead of time.
Right. But the fact that Ramnap Ruin... as soon as I saw that card, I was like, okay, this is a 4 of in any mono red deck that I'm going to build. And turns out that was really low-hanging fruit, but sure. And it's just... It gives you the reach that you need in mono red, where, okay, I can no longer attack in. Well, I guess I blast you in the face 4 times.
Yeah,
Good
with
game.
these lands I'm not even using for anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And the fact that, is it the Sunscourge Desert?
Yep.
Pings when it comes in, and then you just ditch it for 2
it does
more damage.
3 damage. A land.
It's a lightning bolt to the face, and it's a land.
And
so
nobody's going to main deck land destruction. Nobody's even really going to side deck land destruction. Land destruction.
not against that. You need to deal with, 6 lands.
And well, that's just it. If you have land destruction that's, targeting one non-basic, what good is it doing you, really?
Yeah,
not much.
You'd probably be better off focusing on ways to remove their Hazaret.
Yeah.
Or,
killing them
counter
faster
spells
than they are.
Yeah, exactly. Life gain, if you want to be step.
yeah.
So, yeah, it was interesting. It's the first, quotation marks mono red deck that's really been competitive since Atarka red, which is not actually mono red, but
Close enough.
close. Well,
that's a whole other
great.
conversation.
So, anyways,
It's more like Big Red, I guess.
it's been a while.
Sure.
And it was kind of nice to see, even though I hate red
Yeah, I'm excited.
as a
So it's
concept.
good. It's good for me. So what else did well there?
So there were also black-green Constrictor decks and mono-black zombies,
Which you'd expect.
which you'd expect. So,
I mean, there were a lot of good decks that didn't quite go all the way, but still seemed like very strong options.
yeah, because keep in mind, in order to do very well, you also have to be good at draft. So, even if you're the best standard player in the world with the best standard deck in the world, if you suck at draft, you're not going to top 8. So,
That's fair.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always interesting to take a look at those decks that did well in the standard portion, regardless of how well the player did overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good place to separate those two things.
Well, I like looking at the sort of successful rogue lists that maybe did sort of well, because then you bring them into your store meta. It's going to be different than the Pro Tour. They're probably going to do even better in your own store meta, and they're not expected. And people are like, what is this
I
deck?
sideboarded for mono red. What are you running?
And that's where Mono Red was before the Pro Tour, so that's interesting.
Yeah, although, honestly, I think if you didn't see mono red doing well at the Pro Tour, you're
missing the mark a little?
Yeah, I don't think it was a surprise to people who are really paying attention to the meta.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Because everyone went in going, ooh, blue-white monuments. It's really good against dirtily blue-white decks. Mono red!
Yeah.
Yup. Yup.
So,
So speaking of... Oh, okay, before we go on to that, the one more thing that I just wanted to mention about the Pro Tour was the big oopsie.
Whoops.
Okay.
So, I don't even remember the name of the player who did it, because I'm horrible that way with people's names.
Well, it doesn't matter. Probably
That
best
guy
not.
who made that big mistake in the Pro Tour to stop himself from getting through to the finals that let Paulo Vitor Damarosa get through, which let him win the whole Pro Tour. That guy.
In the semis, someone made a huge just goof in not playing their card before attacking. And
Because
it's
they had a
sort of-
Hazaret on the field and needed the only one in hand to be able to attack.
Yep, and it's the kind of thing where he had been doing it right for turn after turn after turn, and then suddenly,
He top decked the exact card he needed, got
To
really
win.
excited, and then...
and did what we do all the time. Don't we, Tams?
Yeah, and that's why we're talking about this, because first of all, it makes me uncomfortable because I feel so bad for him. I'm a really empathetic person, and I completely can just feel what that feels like. And we don't want to poke fun. We're not poking fun at him and going, ha ha, no. it's to point out the fact that no matter what level of gameplay you are at, you can still make game-losing errors like that. Everyone makes them. We do it on a regular basis.
Especially on Go.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of, there was the same sort of error with Clique. What's the...
Vendilion Clique?
Vendilion Clique. Several years ago. And Rich Hagon said on the matter, at some point his brain just stopped playing Magic. It said, you know what? We're done. Because after 9 or 10 rounds, or however many rounds it is, and we just experienced this at the GP.
Yeah, we totally did.
You know what? My brain's shutting off now. I guess I'm going to stop playing Magic and still play these cards, but I'm no longer playing Magic.
Yeah,
and
there were 15 rounds in that Pro Tour, so this is round 14.
Yeah.
In, what is maybe a different time zone.
Oh, that's true too. Could be jet
probably
lag.
Traveling.
Yeah, so it just goes to show you really have to be aware.
But not only that, just don't beat yourself up for it.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And it makes me feel better as a player, knowing that, anyone can make these mistakes, even people at the Pro Tour.
Yeah, and I hope that this doesn't dissuade him from continuing it on, because getting that far is amazing. Yeah. We all make those mistakes, and I hope that the internet at large is
generally very
kind
supportive.
enough.
Like, oh man.
Yeah.
That's good, because it happens,
And that's the kind of community we want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, on to, or back to Mono Red, I wanted to talk about deck lists because it's game day coming up this weekend.
It is.
I heard that.
Are any of you planning on going to game day?
No.
Not really.
Okay.
Not this one.
There's a couple of decks I was thinking about putting together, but
Were one of them Mono Red?
No. And I poked around and just couldn't find the cards that a couple of my local game shops had, so I'm not interested enough to go out of my way to find them.
I think we have Commit to Memories.
That was not the card I was looking for, but thank you.
For me, with all of the extra life stresses Steph and I have had recently, with we're going to be moving and we're looking for a new apartment and I'm trying to find new employment, it's been too stressful to even keep up with our own projects that I just didn't want to dump another thing on top of myself. I'm too competitive. I will stress myself out. I will go and I will play Magic and I will feel lousy about myself after when I scrub out so harshly. So it's best that I just don't.
That's totally fair.
So
I'm still planning on going.
I think you should.
Yeah.
You have a sweet little
To be
deck.
fair, you also have played Standard a lot more
Than
and
we
more
have,
recently
yeah.
than
Recently,
us.
yeah. It was Amonkhet game day that I was playing my mono white, and I've been thinking a lot about game day just this week because we were drafting F&M last week, and I was like, oh, game day is this week? I guess I should go to that because I like going to those. I like going to the pre-release, release night, and game day. I like to hit those three. And so, in the wake of the Pro Tour, I'd like to think that the whole shop will just be playing mono red, and I can come in with my mono white list and just, smash. But I know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, our store, we certainly have people who net deck, but they tend not to net deck the deck.
Yeah.
They tend to net deck more
The
interesting
sweet
decks.
deck.
And we also have a lot of brewers.
Some really talented brewers, too.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've seen net decks there, but I've also seen weird rogue lists that tend to do better. I know that there's still going to be the Aetherflux Reservoir deck there.
Because there's somebody who loves it.
Who just loves it. Yeah.
Do you know what you're going to be playing?
Well, that's why I'm trying to decide. Is it going to be better for me to come in with my mono red list, which I may have to look at some of the Pro Tour decks and see how it matches up, and try to play, the meta, or will it be better for me to go back and look at my mono white list, hoping that the meta will have shifted because of mono red?
Or would it be better for you to instead bring a deck that runs your favorite Marionette Master card?
I could look into that if I have the if I have the cards or know people who have the cards. I might. I was also thinking about making a mono red deck that's 100% burn spells.
Which I thought was very funny. There's a lot in Standard, including Inferno Jet, which just deals 6 damage to your opponent's face, and you only need 4 of them to win the game.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, you need 3, and 2 other burn spells too. Like if you don't draw
Or 3
all
of them and 1 Ravenat Bruin.
Yup. So
Is there anything strictly in red that allows you to copy target instant or sorcery?
I could splash for swarm intelligence.
That's what I wondered. But that takes you're going to be dead by
There's
then.
also that blue, like flashback card that was blue, but the flashback cost was red from
refuse
Shadows.
to cooperate.
No, I mean there's one from like Shadows over Innistrad, wasn't there?
Don't know. We didn't play that. Or we skipped that particular.
We skipped Innistrad block, so it's entirely a mystery to me.
I think there might be something, but yeah, there are certainly ways that you can choose to do that sort of thing.
Anyway, I'll figure it out and let you know what happened next week.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
So that's pretty much it for news. Yeah, what have we been up to?
Well, I did mention we went to F&M, at least Tams and I did.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It was fun. I had a good time for the most part.
You had a really good fun game, I remember you talking about.
Yeah, I did. I had a super, super fun game. My deck was good. I thought it was solid and consistent. And I suffered with some mana issues at times. And it's that hard thing. I played against a new player. It was their very first draft.
Yeah.
Their son comes out every week. And so you were kind of assisting. And it was that, how much do I put up with the quote-unquote assisting before I say something? Because there were a couple of times where it was more like offering unsolicited suggestions, even though it wasn't necessarily, and it's still a competitive environment.
And someone should maybe know better. Step on
No, he
what
was
they
being
do.
so he was being really sweet,
Yeah,
but
but
I was
There's a difference
explaining the
between that
situation, and
he
I
was like,
telling
but
him,
you know, if you do this,
No. What I said was, this one would... What did I say?
Well, it doesn't matter. It is a very tight line to walk, and
Yeah.
if you're not a
It
judge, you might not know where the line is,
I
and
was
probably
also
shouldn't.
Told
Go
to
there?
assist by his opponent.
Oh, absolutely. And that is absolutely true. And that's why I didn't say anything. But it was a little sketchy at times. But it was still fun. Like, he did really, really well.
Yeah.
And he's
Especially for his first time.
Yeah,
And
he's going to be a good player, I think.
He oopsied into the black-white zombies deck.
It was gross. It was so
It was
gross. He smashed
so-
my face.
He had a turn 5 kill in one game.
Yeah, it was really
and
good.
It was, yeah.
Especially considering he had people in black. Like, I was in black something.
And the person right
White, I
beside
think.
him was also in black-white. You
Yeah,
were in
no.
black. Yeah.
Black blue?
No, he was in black-white. They were both in black-white.
Well,
sitting
yeah,
right
so
next
I
to
wasn't
each
in black white. I was in black red.
other. You were in black-red, that's right.
Yeah.
So it was a 9-person pod, too, which is interesting. And you said you had trouble with your mana?
It wasn't anything other than variance.
You know what helps with not having trouble with your mana?
What's that?
Playing a monocolored deck.
Yeah, so what did you play?
Well, it was a 9-player pod, and I guess there was one person in green, and that was me.
Yeah.
I got past 2 Resilient Kenras. I got
That's pretty
past a
gross.
Champion of Ronus.
Yeah.
I didn't get any top end, but apparently all you need is 2 drops when you've got 2 Resilient Kenras.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably going to put an article up on the blog about that one. Oh, by the way, we're reposting to the blog again. I know it's been a while, but I do have a League article up there now. Which actually, if we're want to skip ahead, we just started our Hour of Devastation League.
We did, but
Is there anything else that you want to say about your... How did you do? How did you do for the league? Or not for
the
league,
draft?
for the draft.
I went 2-1-1 because it was a 9-person pod and I got a bye. So not the best, but
It was
part
fun.
of that was it was a real fun deck.
All right, so...
We also did drafting.
we did. Everybody here drafted online this week.
We did.
Well, I haven't drafted online this week.
So
I'm about to, though.
So how'd your deck go, Laura?
Yeah, so I drafted a red-green deck. I've only played 1 round so far. against a red-green deck that had, like, 8 rares in it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he won in 3, my opponent did. But certainly his deck was better than mine, which sometimes sucks when you get cross-league or cross-pod pairings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if we were at the same table, he wouldn't have... I drafted and then went off and did something else and came back, so I'm positive he wasn't in my pod. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, well, you're literally running the same deck except better. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's no fun.
But, yeah, my deck's pretty good. Good removal, lots of creatures because it's red-green,
mm-hmm.
and a fair amount of reach. So I think I'll do pretty well once I get around to my other couple matches. How about you, Tams?
Oh, man. So, Steph and I decided last night, due to time constraints, that I would do the draft portion today. I would draft the deck, and then this evening, he and I will play the rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't draft online. It's so much pressure. I have to run the client, and I have to do the talking, and I have to press the buttons, and...
You have to not have construction happening right outside your window.
Oh, sweet Jiminy Cricket. So I waited until the person that was outside finished doing their things. We had somebody doing some yard work here. And then pick 4 or pick 5. All these trucks, including a... what the heck are those called?
Not a jackhammer, but a concrete breaker.
No.
Thing.
It was the
scoop.
With the scoop.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a very simple word. Why am I blurping?
A scoop truck.
A scoop truck. We're going to call it a scoop truck because that's what it's called now.
We're a little tired.
Anyways, it came along and it started smashing up the concrete. I'm like, really, guys? Okay, but the actual draft portion, I was so proud of myself. I was focused, and I went in recognizing that one of my biggest problems that I've had in the last, I don't know, half a dozen drafty type things I've done is that I have a tendency to focus too quickly.
To decide first pick that we're picking up a Wayward Servant and forcing black-white zombies?
Absolutely. And it isn't even that. I have certain combinations that I like. There are certain combinations of cards that I enjoy interacting together. So if I see them, I grab them and I'm like, I guess I'm all in. And
are they all aggressive?
Yes. And they're generally removal. And then I get tunnel visioned and I may miss stuff that could have pulled me into something that is more open. Mm-hmm. I don't do it as much in paper because you're holding it in your hand. Yeah. But I do find that when you and I are drafting, I tend to be very focused. So this time, I opened fire. Mm-hmm. There was nothing else great in the pack, so I'm like, okay.
It's a solid first pick.
We're going to take that. Yeah. That's good. Second pack was the 5 damage. Puncturing blow.
All right.
And I'm like, okay, there's not much else in the pack. That's fine. And then pack 3 was the white, red... exerts.
The survivors, or whatever they are. Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I can grab this. I don't have to stay in white. I can just grab it because there wasn't a lot other stuff that I was interested in.
Yeah.
And then as we went along, I picked up a lethal sting.
Sure.
Because I'm like, okay, maybe I'll end up in black, and I'm talking, and I'm like, okay. Am I picking this? And then I was this or a white card. And I'm like, am I leaning towards the white because I already have a white-red card? And I'm like, no, go white-red. You love white-red. And is it a better card? Or is it just because that's what I want? So I'm like, no, I'm going to take the black. But I listened to my instincts and what was open and wound up with a 6-piece. I had a 6-piece removal suite. It's red-white. I got 2 of the survivors. I got the on-crop... the
Crasher?
No, the white red from Amonkhet dude.
Yeah, the 2-drop.
Yeah. And a bunch of stuff that likes exert, and then I got a bunch of exert creatures. It looks really sweet.
Yeah,
it's got
seems sweet.
Great curve. We haven't tried it yet. So we're gonna see how it goes tonight, and I really hope that I have good news next week.
And then
well, you can definitely check out the video.
Mm-hmm. It'll be up.
Going up probably by the time this podcast is up.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Go watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So then, chronologically moving along, we went to another fun draft at the local shop owner's place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's desperate for standard singles, and we're always willing to help him open a box.
Absolutely. So
And
that
I
was
thoroughly
fun.
approve of the fact that he doesn't just want to crack boxes, that he wants to
It's
draft
so
with them.
great.
Yeah,
Gives us
Because
extra
he never
practice.
gets to draft
Yeah.
F&M because there's always people wanting to draft.
Yeah.
And he'll draft if it fills a pod, but otherwise...
yeah, he misses out. So this, it was so much fun.
I got to draft the green-white tokens deck.
Yeah, you did.
I
you
opened
did.
the cat guy, or Lord dude, the green one that for white
Sovereign.
you tap him.
Weren't
Oh.
you basically banned?
Yeah, so I was green, white, tokens go white, etc. Splashing a couple of blue unquenchable thirsts and that sort of thing.
Sure.
And I ended up going 3-0.
It was a very strong deck.
It was pretty fun to watch.
sweet.
Yeah.
I never open like fun rares that I get to draft. So the fact that I did and that I got to actually build the deck because it was fairly open for my seat was sweet. Tams, you were just to my right. You were also drafting white, but not nearly as much.
I had a very, very, very small white splash. I was mostly mono red, and I went more aggressive than I think I've ever gone before.
I'm
it was
shocked.
mostly 2 drops. I thought, okay, I'm going to try that deck.
Yeah.
And I just happened upon all of the pieces that make it work. And
Yeah, I don't think many people at the table were drafting red.
no, I mean, I got a 4th to last pick, Electrify.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Wow.
thank you. I wound up getting a couple of anthems that I wasn't expecting to get, and it just helped.
The punishing whatever?
Yeah. The one that +2 +0
Pursuit of Glory.
Pursuit of Glory.
Yeah. So I had a little bit of trouble getting stuff out. I played against
The best deck in the world. Super grindy mill.
yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, so harsh. But then my deck behaved, and I got to see how it actually is supposed to run, and it was super fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, how did you do, Stafford?
I don't remember what I drafted. What did I draft, Laura?
I
you
don't
beat me.
remember. I did beat you. I didn't see many of your cards.
I think that was my main problem. I think it was in black-green, is that right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't remember my deck at all. Where's my...
Do you remember having fun?
Yes. Yes, I remember having fun.
Well, that's all that matters, really.
I remember smashing one of my opponents and then absolutely losing to Laura, being
Yep.
absolutely crushed by the unquenchable thirsts.
Yeah, I think I ended up going 3-0-6-0. Like, my deck was just very good.
Yeah, it was very good.
And you had a first round bye, right?
I did. That
Oh,
was
that's
the other
right.
problem.
And
So
you did better than
We had-
anybody else
We had
in that
7
bye?
players.
absolutely. Yeah, we had
Nice.
7 players because one guy couldn't make it. So that was the big problem. I won one and I lost one, and that didn't really leave a great, a definitive impression about the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
But no, it was always fun to draft,
That
especially
group of
in
people
that
is so
company.
much fun,
Yep.
yeah.
Even if you have to give the cards back.
Yep.
On the other hand, it does really leave to, nobody's rare drafting.
Absolutely.
Because we're all
Which
giving
is
the cards back at the
Super
end.
fun. It makes it better, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly
Absolutely.
more cooperative instead of people just doing weird things because of money.
Yeah,
So,
which is good. Moving on.
moving on to the league
Oh my
tournament.
gosh.
It's time for Hour of Devastation Sealed League.
So it started on Saturday. Everybody was there. The air conditioning was on. It was pretty fun.
Oh, I had such a good time.
I had a great time.
Okay, so we'll start with me because mine is the painful story.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, my pool is okay. To start with, there's not a lot of white that's great. There's not a lot of blue that's great. There's a couple of okay cards. There's, Lay Claim, but
Yeah.
it's very expensive, so it alone is not going to make me want to play it. My red was okay-ish. My black and my green, very strong. Double Ambuscade, the green cartouche, the black cartouche, the green trial, a bunch of really cool creatures. I also got 2 of the obelisk spiders. I didn't have quite enough creatures to fill out my my deck quite enough. I wound up running one of the walls, And also
The Moaning Wall, the black one?
Yep, that I said I wanted to find some way to play. And 23rd card it is.
Yeah.
But I also played the Scarab. Why can I never remember
Torment of Scarabs.
Torment of Scarabs.
Yep.
Which...
That's the enchantment one,
That's the enchantment one, yes. That makes your opponent decide at the beginning of their upkeep, not after their draw step. And that is so important. I had to keep reminding people, no. You don't get to draw and see what you get. You have to decide now. Lose 3 life... discard a card or sack a creature.
Yeah.
So what wound up happening, the first round was super fun. I played against the shop owner's son, and he's always a blast to play against.
Oh, he is.
Oh, he's a great player, too. So he got me down to like 5, and then my deck completely stabilized, and I killed him with the Scarabs. He ended up... It was back and forth and back and forth. I lost in 3, but they were 3 amazing games.
So how long did that round take?
Not too long. It wasn't too bad. Then I played another round, and it went to turns, and I won in 1. And it was so long and grindy. It hurt my heart so much. So after that, everything went to rounds. I tied in one of the rounds, and then I won another one. So I think I went
2-1-1.
Something like that. But the deck was... I hated it. Like, legitimately, I came home and said to Steph, I enjoyed building it. I enjoyed my interactions with my friends. But if I have to play that deck for the league, I'm not doing it. I would rather grab the other stuff and make a crappy deck that I'm going to lose super fast than go through that grind fest.
But it sounds sweet.
But everybody was miserable. Like, I was miserable because I'm like, okay, I have these spiders. Do you want to attack? They're like, no, go. Like, we almost decked ourselves at one point, and I was not having any fun.
Yeah.
So I changed it up, and I'll just, quickly say, this week's league, I took out the wall. I managed to open some really nice stuff that just added to my deck, and it became much faster. It's definitely mid-range with the potential for aggression and the potential for long game, and I went 3-1 this week. So
nice.
It's much better.
Nice.
Much better. Yeah. So how about you guys?
Yeah, so I opened Hoopu.
Oh.
So the blue-green 2-drop that lets you draw cards and gain life, which is all I want to do in Magic.
Yep.
Basically. So yes, I mean, my blue-green is definitely, I think, my 2 strongest colors. I think I'm playing the right deck. I don't know if that's the deck I'm supposed to be building towards in League with training, but I also don't care. I'm going for it. I love it. I had so much fun.
How fast are your games, Laura?
Well, they were fine. So basically my game plan, my deck is running approximately 10 2-drops. So I have a ton of early creatures. I'm running a couple of Unquenchable Thirst to 2-drop removal, quote unquote enchantments, that sort of thing. So my curve is actually really low. So then I just get out a couple of things so that they can't do anything. Then I draw cards until I draw one of my blue bombs. I have 2 Sphinxes. One's the 5/3 embalm guy. One's the 4/4 that when you cycle or discard a card, you can give their stuff -2/-0. But basically, it's a 4/4 flyer for 5. I also have one of the green hippos, that sort of thing. So basically, I just draw until I get to my end game, play it, hit them in the face a lot.
That sounds a little grindy, Laura.
It's a grindy deck with 10 2-drops. How is that possible?
Well,
because it's Laura.
2 of my 2-drops are enchantments. 2 of my 2-drops are 1 power.
Oh.
I have 3 Ronus' Stalwarts. Those are the 2/2s that can exert and become 3/3s that are unblockable for power 2 or less.
Those are
which
quite
is
good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my deck can actually be pretty mid-rangey. And that's, none of my games went to turn on Saturday. I ended up going 3-1. I lost to a player who ended up also going 3-1, and I think that we were matched up very well. If I had drawn better, I could have won, but that's Magic for you. He drew better than I did, so he won. I think our decks, though, were pretty well matched up. But, yeah, I didn't actually end up going to turns or anything like that. And then on Tuesday, I tried it for a second River Hoopu, and then I ended up going really long
Yeah,
game.
and I heard tales told of the long and grindiness of your deck, and I looked at you and said, nope, I don't want to play you. I'll play somebody else. Thank you so much.
So, I came in at 4, because the shop owner's on vacation. So he opened the store a bit early. He had the air conditioning on, which is nice because after a while it gets really hot in there with much Magic players in the summer. And I was there for 3.5 hours for 4 rounds of Magic. We don't keep a timer for anything outside of the tournaments, the opening and closing tournaments. Everything else is just you play until somebody wins. 3 different games. I came within 5 cards of decking myself. Intentionally. I was just drawing cards off my hoopus. I could have stopped at any time. I don't have a problem, is all I'm saying. I can stop whenever I want to.
You just happen to stop at 5.
Well, yeah, I stop when I won the game. I am splashing white for a cast out, but I really don't want to. Because splashing white, it makes my mana base really slow. I'm running a tapped white desert and a plains, a Traveler's Amulet, an Evolving Wilds. I'm also running a half-color Cycle Land just because I have cycling synergies and I like card draw. But it's... Sometimes I will have an opening hand where I have an Evolving Wilds, I have a Traveler's Amulet, I have a 2-drop, and I have a tapped desert. Like, what... I'm also running the green desert tap land. Like, if I took out the cast out for something of similar power, I don't want it, because my removal is terrible. I have the Unquenchable Thirsts, I have the cast out, and I have a green cartouche. That is all of my... Oh, well, and an unsummon, but that doesn't count. So that is all of my removal. I desperately need some ambuscades, or something similar to that. And as soon as I do that, I can remove the cast out, but while it's in, it just slows my start down in most games, which is really unfortunate because then it does lead to these board stalls, which I'm more likely to win than my opponent is, but it does tend to lead to long games.
I would gladly trade you a cartouche of strength for a cast out.
Something to consider. Except the cast is, I believe, a common. Isn't it?
The cartouche, yes.
Yeah. So we'll have to... I did end up using up my week 1 trade points, so we'll have to wait until week 3. But yeah, my red is really good. I actually ended up trading 4 points of it away to the store owner's son, who has plans of ending up mono red by the end of the league.
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You monster.
Yeah, so he got 2 creatures and 2 removal spells from me because I don't care. I'm building blue-green.
Yeah, well, I am in black-green. And I have not done my trades for this week. I'm definitely looking for the green lands that you can sack a desert and pump with them.
Yeah.
I would love those. Or, some nice creatures. I have some okay stuff. I have an Abrade.
I have a Frang Sanity and many things that could lead me into the mill deck if I want to.
Oh, dear.
I'm just saying.
Oh, man.
So, Steph, tell us about your league.
Well, okay, it's funny you should mention Nicky C, because he's one of the only people who came close to beating me.
Sick brags, bro.
Yeah, I may have gotten very lucky. Because my deck isn't actually all that good, but I just...
Oh yeah, you're just 4080. What?
I am, and part of that is just straight luck.
How so?
During the opening tournament, I was base green-black splashing white. Splashing white for a Pride Sovereign, which is a great lightning bolt for removal. Or a lightning rod for removal.
Yeah.
I was also splashing a Impeccable Timing and Dust on Grind to Dust.
Now, would you have done either of those two if you weren't already splashing the white?
No.
No.
The Grind to Dust, yes. I would have splashed, 1 plains in case.
Okay.
Because I think Grind by itself is a card worth playing. I think I was also splashing 1 Aven of Enduring Hope. Basically, I also had 8 or 10 2-drops, but they were all creatures except for the Grind to Dust.
Yeah.
And the Impeccable Timing. So I wanted to go very, very aggressive, and that's why I won. Because I always had 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 2 2-drops win. That was how my games during the opening tournament went. People like to play the fun stuff that they open, and you can really punish someone for that in this particular environment, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit.
Yep.
During week 1, I had actually changed my deck to be base black-white, still splashing green, and I want to... I didn't end up splashing the cartouche because I didn't think I needed it, but my green splash is now one of the spiders. What's the spider
The
called? Obelisk spider and the Pride Sovereign. Because those were the two, green cards that I thought were worth the splash.
Sure.
I was already running the desert too because the Hashep Oasis, because I have an Ifnir Deadlands and 5 deserts total, so I wanted to make sure it was in there.
Ifnir Deadlands is so sweet. I
It
have one
is
in my
very
deck
good.
too. Oh man.
That's the black one that puts counters on
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's basically turns your lands into removal, and what more could you want?
And a lot of people don't remember it or pay attention to it,
Yeah.
and it can really affect things.
Plus, doesn't it have really good synergies with your obelisk spider?
It does.
Yeah.
That never actually happened in a game for me, but
in your head.
in my
It
head,
happened to
and
me.
it just like the Deadlands won me games because I was able to shrink a creature and then next turn kill another creature, and it just
And I might have opened another obelisk spider this week, so now I have 3. Yeah.
So this league is going to be exciting, and I already have the first post about it up on the
The website?
website.
Sweet.
So I will be continuing to post every week.
So, Tams, are
Yes.
you liking your deck?
I love my deck now. I'm having so much fun playing it. Even the game I lost was fine because it was just a case of my mana just was a jerk and didn't get there. But it was much more fun. The games I had against one of the other female players in the shop, it was very back and forth. It could have gone either way at any point, and that's really fun. So, yeah, I'm having a good time.
So, you're 2-1 and 1, and then 3-1.
Yeah.
Step is 4-0-8-0.
Yep.
I went 3-1 at the opening tournament, and then 3-1 again on Tuesday.
So we're all doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So it's been fun, yeah.
And we're all liking our decks.
Yep. Yes. I would like to move toward green-white. It's where I really want to be.
Okay.
I especially want either the Crested Sunmare or the Regal Caracal, or both, But I don't trade often, and when I do, it's usually for just commons or whatever. So this time
I'm terrible at
really crafting
trading.
my deck and trying to say, okay, this is what I want. If it's out there, I want to get it.
Well, on the other hand, I often make it a strategy of trading for commons and uncommons, just because then you get 3 or 4 cards that affect your deck, rather than one card, which if you don't draw it, does literally nothing for you.
Sure. I just feel like those cards in particular would put me into the deck that I would have the most fun playing.
Right.
Sure, because
So-
you'd be winning all of your matches.
Not necessarily, though.
Horses.
I feel like the deck that I have right now is good right now, but doesn't have staying power unless I do heavily craft it. Because people's decks get better.
Yeah.
They get so much better.
Yep.
Everyone's.
And the fun thing of League, though, is that you get to decide which direction you want to build in. A lot of people wait until week 3 or 4 when they've opened a bunch of packs.
And that's what I usually do.
Yeah.
But this time I decided I know what direction I want to go.
I would just like to get trades in this time
Yeah.
before, so we'll have to see how things go this week or next week. So
Yep. So next up is our main topic.
which always end up at the end.
Yes.
And yeah, we're 50 minutes in, so
Well,
whatever.
whatever.
Did we want to do this here thing?
So the thing we wanted to talk about today was draft versus sealed. Because there's something on my mind in particular just after the GP. Because I did quite well in sealed and not nearly as well in draft, despite having 0 experience basically with either parts of this particular format.
Okay.
And I just think it's interesting because to me, they feel like different skill sets.
Yep.
Like, obviously, you have to know how to play well. But to me, in sealed versus draft, just deck building is different. So we thought we might start off with a little crack-a-packy action here and, kind of talk about the cards draft versus sealed.
Yeah.
potential.
You're not going to pop it?
I'm
Good.
not going to pop it.
Good.
Step
Probably
likes to
wise.
smack it with the air bubble so he makes a loud gunshot noise. Alright, so what have we got? We have got an Earthshaker Kinra token.
And a planes. All right, so first up we have Dutiful Servants.
So that's the 2/5 for 3 and a white. I have been super unimpressed with this card, which is shocking because I really liked the
It's younger brother
2/4 version.
It
Yeah, I
turns
haven't
out that
played it.
1 more mana for 1 more toughness is just not good enough.
It's not even that it's not good enough, it's super not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, unless you are in a dedicated zombie deck and desperately need a 4-drop, the card's almost unplayable regardless of your format.
Yeah. Kenra Scrapper, however,
Oh,
2
I
and a
like
red
him.
for a 2/3 with Jackal Warrior with Menace, and you can exert him to give him +2/+0, is eminently playable.
Oh, he's
Absolutely.
pretty sweet. I like him a lot.
I'm trying to think of where I've picked him. It's not high. It's like mid-pack, I think, so far.
Actually, in my red-green deck, I ended up first picking him in pack 2 because there's nothing else for me in the pack.
Sure, in pack 2, absolutely.
And I was red, and he was red, and I'll play as many of these as I can get in any red deck.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Menace is, I think, underrated sometimes. It makes things very difficult for your opponent.
Well, I think also just the key point is that if you exert him into a 4/3, you're not wasting out on any points of damage, because if you didn't exert him and you just hit them in the face twice for 2 each time, that's still 4 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty good.
if you need to exert him to get past a blocker or whatever, it really doesn't cost you anything.
Or, and here's the thing, take out 2 blockers with it.
Yeah.
Because the Menace exerted, you're still probably getting a 2-for-1.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially early in the game.
Yeah. So next we have Proven Combatant. I haven't played one.
That's the 1 mana 1/1 with Eternalize.
For 6.
For 6.
Double
if it were
blue.
for 4 or something like that, I still wouldn't play it, but I'd at least call him playable. But
I wouldn't play
I
this guy.
also haven't played this guy
A lot of people
because
seem to
I
like
think
him.
he's not very good.
Why?
Apparently he does enough. I just haven't
A
found
6 mana
that
4/4, I don't want to play.
he's
No.
not in any of my my blue decks.
Yeah, I've played multiple blue decks, and I've had the option of playing at least one of these, and I've always chosen not to.
If I'm going to play a 6 mana 4/4, I want it to have wings.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
in blue, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost a card is the thing.
Yeah, but it's not worth a card either.
Fair enough.
Says
So I guess
all of us.
we're on the Star Trek plan with the odds being unplayable and the evens being great because we're on to Marauding Bone Slasher.
I
which
like
is
this guy.
2 and a black for a 3/3.
He's-
that usually can block because you usually have
And
another zombie.
if you can't block, you don't usually care.
Yeah, he's generally my deck filler in green.
He's like-
or in black.
He's
He's a
good
good
filler.
value.
He's
Yeah.
about cards 15 through 20.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I'm in black of some iteration, there's generally multiples of them because they're just really good at trading and attacking.
And if you have 2 of them out, they can block.
Yep, absolutely.
So how do we feel about Oasis Ritualist? That's the 3 and a green 2/4 Naga Druid that you can tap to add a mana or exert to add 2 mana.
I have been whelmed by this guy. Like, not overwhelmed, not super underwhelmed. I think the problem is just that he costs 4. By the time I get to 4 mana, I don't usually care about ramping. And I tend to avoid decks where I need the fixing.
I have played him in decks where this is what I was looking for,
Yeah.
but I don't take him otherwise. Like,
Like in the green ramp deck, which is definitely a thing, and which is a very good deck if you get the right pieces to it, you don't necessarily take this guy to get there. You take this guy if you're there.
right.
For me, I don't think I know the deck or know how to build the deck that this card belongs in, so I just don't ever touch it. I mean, I could see me grabbing it if I'm in green something that I'm ramping and I desperately need a late turn splash, then maybe I'll pick
Okay,
it up.
for splashing I can see. What I always do with him is if I know I want to get to 7, 8, or 9 mana, then I will hope to pick one up, but he's also a common, so that's not difficult.
Right, whereas
That's
in
true.
Sealed, generally this guy's quite good.
Yeah.
Just because you are usually trying to get to that late game. And, board stalls are definitely more of a thing. So the problem is just I'd rather have a Naga Vitalist.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But they seem to be harder to come by. Well, there's only one pack of them.
Yeah.
All right, this one is one that I think I like more than most people.
Nope.
Kenra Eternal.
I like him just fine.
I think he's great.
he's the 2/2 with a flicked 1 for 2.
Yep, in black.
And he's a zombie.
Yes, he is.
He made me not have to run a wall in my league deck. I like him quite well.
Yeah, I mean, a 2/2 with a flicked is exactly what almost every black deck wants. The
Yep.
fact that he's a zombie just brings him from like a C to a C plus or a B minus. Like, he's just in Sealed. he's great. In draft, he's great. I wouldn't first pick him, but I play him in every black deck.
I just see him coming around the table 5th, 6th, or 7th, and I'm like, really?
And you think, I guess no one's in
black.
black.
You think black must be open.
And that's not necessarily the case, though. And
well, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah. I guess. All right, next we have Desert of the True. That's the cycling desert in white.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm not going to first pick it in draft. You'll play it in sealed if you're in white. You'll play it in draft if you're in
grabbed
white.
2 of them in the draft that I was in because there was nothing else in the packs for me, and I thought if I get something that cares about deserts, it's fine.
Yep.
Well, this guy cares about deserts. He's a Gilded Ceradon. 4 and a red for a 4/4 whenever it attacks. If you control a desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard, target creature can't block this turn. This guy has been less good than I originally assumed, but still fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, he's fine. He's
also fine and sealed.
I had him in my sealed pool at the GP. I ended up running him as a 5-drop. I had my Scarab God. And then I also had the, what's that 5/4 that has to attack each turn if able and has a flick 3?
Yeah.
Manticore.
The Manticore,
Eternal?
yes. Yeah. And usually one of these 2 cards was the card that I sided out for whatever sideboard deck I was running.
Sure.
Usually it was this guy.
Yeah.
I prefer the Manticore just because I don't care if somebody blocks him.
Yeah. Because you're still getting in and killing something, right?
And a flick 3.
Yeah.
When I drafted today, I drafted him, I drafted the 5/4 that cycles, and I drafted the Manticore. When I put the deck together, he got the cut because I'd rather run the Cycler.
Yeah, plus, I mean, the problem is that you do need deserts. Most of the deserts you're going to run are tap lands.
Yeah.
And tap lands are sometimes iffy and aggressive red decks because you want your mana untapped for the first 5 turns.
Yeah.
And then you want no more land.
Yeah.
All right, this is one that I want your opinions on. God Pharaoh's Faithful. White for an 0/4 human wizard.
Yep.
And whenever you cast a blue, black, or red spell, Grixis, you gain 1 life.
I would never play him. I don't play 1 mana
Never
0
ever,
X's.
I sometimes do play 1 mana 0/4s, but not usually in... Well, definitely not in this format. When Voltron becomes a thing, that's when I play these guys.
Sure, because then you can just give them power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I even in formats where they're fine, I still never play these guys. Like, even Oxes, even the Walls, unless the format, like, basically requires that you do so, I will usually run anything that has some form of power.
I do play Walls on occasion, but for me, I have never touched this. I have never drafted this. If I'm going to play a Wall in this format, I'm going to play the Pinger.
Yeah.
I'm going to have some
something.
deserts anyway, and I might as well use it.
And you were asking me earlier, like yesterday, about control decks in draft, and I said, well, you want blocker or creatures that block well, and this is specifically not a creature that blocks well.
Well, no, it does nothing. Yeah.
Yes, and I wouldn't play that in sealed, even if I were running white, any of these other 3 colors.
Yeah. All right. We're on to the uncommons. I guess that means we have a foil.
All right. So far of the commons, let's just say I think we all agree that probably the Kenra Scrapper's our top choice.
That would be my pick.
I might take Kenra Eternal. That's a tough pick for me.
I think that red removal is better than black, so I would probably start with a red common if I had to.
Me too.
If I had to choose.
That's fair. Well, our first uncommon is Sunset Pyramid. I have been pleasantly not surprised that this card is good. It's 2 mana for an artifact. It enters with 3 brick counters on it, and you can pay 2, tap it, and remove a brick counter to draw a card, or pay 2 and tap it to scry 1.
I would never first pick this card.
No?
No.
Not in draft. I would usually run it in sealed.
And it's funny because I may have one in my pool. I don't know. I am not one for playing this kind of card, but looking at it, I can definitely see its value.
I'd run it about half the time in my draft decks. I'd run it basically every time in my sealed decks.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But like I said, I would never first pick it.
No.
In a draft.
All right. Stinky Razaketh's right. 3 black for a sorcery. Tutor. Search your library for a card and put that card in your hand. Then shuffle your library. It does cycle for a black.
I would play this if I had an Archfiend and I were in the blue-black cycling deck. Otherwise, I would never in my life put it in a deck.
I can't think of a bomb other than Archfiend. Yeah, that I would want to tutor up for 5 mana.
Well, I'm not even saying I'd tutor it. I'd play it because it cycles for a single black mana.
Fair enough.
I'm trying to remember what it was that someone had with this. It may have been God Pharaoh's Gift, that they were playing Razaketh's right to go and get God Pharaoh's Gift.
Okay.
And I think that was good in their deck. I don't know. Tutors are bad now, man.
Yeah,
I
even
would
in
never play
sealed,
that.
this is just wasting a card spot in your deck.
Yeah.
And in sealed, your card slots are really important. So,
I've seen it played. Like, it's been played while I've had opponents play it. And I'm like, sure. Okay.
kill you.
Well, our last uncommon is Torment of Scarabs.
Ooh,
Oh,
something
this is
to shout about.
We were talking about this one.
This is definitely a polarizing card.
You
So this is
mentioned
the
that it
enchantment.
won most of your games.
Every game I've played it in, I've won.
In your particular deck.
In my particular
So it's
deck.
3 and a black for that enchantment. It's a curse, enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, that player loses 3 life unless he or she sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card.
I can tell you part of the reason why, against the people that I play against the meta of our environment, why it can be very strong. Because it's forcing people to make a choice. And people don't always make the best decisions when it comes to something of this kind of broadness of option.
Yeah.
And I find that people often make a bad choice. Or they'll
Sorry, go ahead.
Or they'll take 3 and take 3 and take 3. Like, I had an opponent take 3 and then get down. They have 3 creatures on the field, and then they get down to their last 3 life, and they're like, okay, I guess that's game. And I'm like, you have creatures? Yeah, no, but, it's inevitable. And I'm like, okay. Sure. Sure.
What do you say to people who say that making your opponents have choices is bad because they always have a choice?
Absolutely. I definitely see that there is value in that statement. Sure. Because especially people who are very good at that kind of decision making. I've seen this put to good use. I played it against John at the shop, and he had the Prowler out. And he's like, sure, I'll sack my cat and draw a card to get me out of this stinky situation I'm in. Thank you very much. And I'm like, yeah. So definitely, I don't think it belongs in every deck. I think I could probably play another strong creature in place of it. But I'm having way too much fun. And that, for me, is part of it. I want to see how far it can go. I'd love to play a second one.
So, do you think it's better in an aggro deck or a control deck? I've heard arguments for one or the other.
And I think it depends, because this is part of the reason why my grindy deck did win the games it won, because, I'm sitting there behind these stupid walls and they're having to make these decisions over and over again, and it gets frustrating for your opponent, and then pretty soon you run out of options. You run out of cards in hand, and then you run out of creatures on the board, and then you run out of life. Unless you're playing life gain, it can be tricky. But I found out this week that playing it in an aggro deck also can help, because people are like, well, sure, I'll take 3, and then I drop my big creature, and I'm like, okay, you're dead. Bye.
So I think this is specifically one of the places where we see a divide between draft and sealed, because what I've found with this card, Torment of Scarabs, is that it is best when you are pressuring your opponent in some way.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
In control decks, it could be a finisher, but anything could be a finisher.
Yep.
Now, that being said, in sealed, you need to play the finisher you've got, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got a control deck and this is your finisher, well, then that's your finisher.
Yeah.
But I think it's better overall in aggressive decks.
And I don't think that it's necessarily a good card. The brewer
It's a
in
fun
me
card.
is trying to come up with a standard deck to take advantage of its shenanigans. And in League, I'd like to play a second one, because I think it'll be good in it'd be even better in multiples. Because
I think that's true.
It's that is a hard decision for you to make.
Do I take 6? Do I discard 2 cards? Do I discard and sack a creature?
Yeah.
That's a hard decision to make. So if anyone wants to trade me one, I'm happy to take it.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
All right.
So, would anybody first pick it in a draft?
No.
No. All right.
Never.
So do we want the foil or do we want the rare?
Foil.
Yeah, foil.
All right. The foil is a Torment of Venom.
Oh, another torment.
Which I think absolutely takes first pick so far from the pack for me.
So this is the 4-mana instant, put 3 -1/-1 counters on this creature, and then its controller makes
that decision that the Torment of Scarabs offers.
So yeah, its instant speed, basically removal.
Yep.
And it can count as double removal in most situations.
Really? I tend
in a draft?
to take the 3 life.
Yeah.
Most people I play
And not
against
care.
tend to discard the land that they have sitting in their
Yeah,
hand.
or that.
Fair enough.
Especially because once you know your opponent is running this type of card, you will keep your lands in your hand.
And that said, there is absolutely value to be had with them discarding that last land in their hand because you know what they have now.
Mm-hmm.
I've first picked this.
I find when it's happened to me, my life total is being pressured so that I don't feel comfortable taking the 3 life hit.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
I have, but I've also sacrificed an irrelevant creature. So
That's why I like this set, because there's so many things that make decisions interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
what do you think about it?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. Like, I would take it just because it's removal, and in a draft, that's super important. And in Sealed, you'll play it pretty much every time if you're in black, because it's removal. And especially in Sealed, you don't get a choice about your removal.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's necessarily better than, like, the Scrapper.
Okay.
I would pick it before the Scrapper simply because I value removal so highly.
Yeah, and I agree. I would do the same for that same reason.
But I still think that the red removal, I would pick that first because this is double black.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All right.
What's our rare?
Our rare is Grind to Dust.
Ooh.
Grind is 1 and a black for a sorcery. Put a -1/-1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. And then Dust, Aftermath sorcery for 3 and a white. Exile any number of target creatures that have -1/-1 counters on them. I have one of these in my Sealed League deck, and if you have 6 mana, you can exile 2 bombs with it, and that feels great.
I have a very funny story from this GP.
Okay.
So I had an opponent play this against me. You might recall from my GP, I had a lot of 2-drops. A lot of my 2-drops had only 1 toughness. So I had a camel and maybe the archer out. So just a couple of creatures. My opponent plays Grind, kills off 2 of my creatures. I have a camel in the desert, so they have to discard a card. So that's fine. That's like 1.5 cards for them, 2 cards for me.
Yep.
Basically. And then I played Hazaret on turn 4. And my opponent was like, I should have saved it! And then they promptly lost the game because I hit them in the face with Hazaret a couple of times.
Yup.
Yeah.
So that was very unfortunate for them.
But that is more the exception than the rule.
Well, maybe. I mean, you do get the choice. You can pick off 2 smaller creatures.
Yeah.
Or, and then, plan on flashing back the dust at a later point if you have other -1/-1 counters. Synergy is like that stupid land.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or, you wait until you do have the 6 mana saved up so you can exile 2 of their biggest threats. Like, it's dependent on your deck and the board state.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a pretty decent card, because there is choice and there is flexibility in there. It's
So this for me is the first pick from the pack.
Yeah. I mean, it is a gold card, but you'd probably, I know you already said you'd play Grind on its own.
I would play Grind on its own. There are enough X1s in this format that I can pick off 2 creatures with it pretty much every time, and I would be happy getting 1 creature for it.
Yeah, the problem is it is a sorcery.
Yep.
And yeah,
it is only 2 mana though.
But you can only put 1 counter on each creature.
Yes.
You don't get the choice of putting 2 on 1.
This is true.
It's not Splendid Agony.
It is not.
no,
Splendid
but
Agony.
there are enough X1s running around, or
Yeah.
just bringing. Like, for me, I would love to have this in my deck because...
With the stupid obelisk spiders?
Yeah, or even just, with Ambuscade, taking their big thing down 1 notch,
Yeah.
and then putting mine up, 1 notch sometimes allows you to get that big 7/7 out of the way or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's still pretty sweet.
Yeah, and then in this format, there are a lot of ways to splash.
Yep.
I would splash that. But what about in Sealed? You play this every time if you can get in these colors?
In Sealed, I would play this if I were black, or I would play this if I were white.
Yeah.
I would
just
splash
the
either
other.
side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's
it's
right.
really strong.
Especially if you don't have much other great removal. Like, if you had amazing red removal or something and you weren't anywhere near either of these colors, sure, are required to play it or anything, but
Yeah.
if you even just have mediocre removal, this is good removal.
Now, what do you say to the argument that there are 1, 2.5 first pickable black cards and 1 first pickable red card in this pack?
I think this pack's actually kind of weak.
It is.
Like, sure, you've got a couple of decent black cards, but I can also see the person to my left, if they took a red card, or if they like red, taking the scrapper.
Sure.
But sure, it's something to keep in mind, but for 2 of the packs, you don't care what the opponent to your left is doing.
Yeah.
And the fact is, as you said, it's easily splashable. So
Yeah.
even if you're like, okay, I'm passing all of this black, okay, so maybe I'm just going to splash the black portion of this card anyway. So
Or maybe I don't care about my first pick anyway.
Yeah,
Right?
which certainly is something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that's an interesting pack. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between draft and
we'll
sealed.
keep it kind of brief, but
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the most interesting things about this format in sealed versus draft is that I think sealed is faster.
which is rare.
It is. Like, usually a good aggressive deck is very hard to get in a sealed environment. Usually when you're drafting an aggressive deck, you have more options. Mm-hmm. But in Amonkhet Hour of Devastation, the 2-drops are just so good across the board that I find opening even 3 colors, you can go aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's not just that they're, high power, have high toughness, which a lot of them are. They're also evasive. Or they exert to become evasive.
Or just have other utility, which is great. And we're calling Afflict evasion for this.
I would consider it that, because if,
still
they
getting
can block, but
Yeah, there's, stuff that gives
Disincentivized.
it's kind of like trample, basically.
Yeah. And I think looking at draft and sealed for new players, especially in this set, but I'm sure in others, I think draft is a more forgiving format for the newcomer. Specifically like this set, you've got zombies, so they're like, okay, there's a zombie, I'll just grab all the zombies. And for the most part, if they know you need some removal, it's fairly easy to craft at least a workable deck. But it's really overwhelming as a new player to sit down with all of these colors and all of these cards and try to figure out what is the best kind of put together of the deck.
I agree with you on that. I'd say that whether draft is easier or not is environmental based on what else people are doing. Like,
Yeah, it could
if
be.
you go up against 6 grinders in a queue, then the new player is probably not going to stand a chance.
Sure.
But at an F&M level where people like to do fun things, then yeah, the draft is absolutely going to be a little more even.
And maybe
also, sorry.
maybe my comments aren't entirely fair because they're definitely coming from this is how it is at our store, because our store is a very welcoming environment for new players. So that
it's
helps.
interesting because I also think that that's not true for all new players. I think that a lot of new players, if you say, in sealed, you are given cards and then you make a deck. That's a lot less stressful than, you have to pick one card and it goes around, and you pick another card and it goes around.
I can see that.
And they're like, oh my god, I'm going to be sitting there reading these cards. I'm going to be so slow. I don't know what I'm doing. There's going to be 5-color nonsense. It can be kind of stressful, especially if you don't know the people you're drafting with, to just be like, yep, sit down. I don't care if you know the cards or not. I don't care if you know how to draft or not. You're going to do it anyway.
The stress factor is absolutely there, but based on what I've experienced, I have seen people do better as an introduction to Limited with draft because it's one choice at a time rather than getting this huge pile of stuff and not knowing what to do with any of it.
Yeah, being able to go, okay, I've picked this black thing, so now I'm just going to pick all of the black things that I see.
Because if you do that, then you might not end up with a great deck, but you'll end up with a playable deck, right?
Yeah, sure. But again, it depends on the person, because other people, they go, oh, well, in sealed, I'm given all the information. Mm-hmm. I can sit down, especially if you're doing it online, there's no time limits to your deck building. You can look through every single card, read them all, look at all the combinations.
And in that case, I definitely think sealed. Yeah, but in a store environment, when you have 1 hour to build your deck, I've watched new players be like, I don't know what to do. There's too much. Where do I even
They just throw away half of the colors just because.
Yeah, but I think the reason I'm just so insistent on this is because I did a draft, and then 2 weeks later, I did my very first sealed. And I found the sealed to be less stressful.
But you have an analytical mind.
I was going to say, you're not typical.
It depends on the player. Like
absolutely.
Some people just prefer to be given all the information, especially if they've had a chance to look at some of the cards ahead of time.
Sure.
Or even if you just Google, which is what I did. I Googled, how do you build a sealed deck?
Yeah.
And you know, the internet will just say, make sure you have this many lands, approximately, this many creatures, approximately, this much removal, approximately, and then you just need to memorize those 3 facts, and you just go, great, how do I get that combination out of these 5 colors?
And to Wizards' credit, they are putting that in their pre-release kits now.
Yeah, which I think is great.
In a really straightforward, easy to understand way.
Yeah.
Which is great because apparently pre-release is a new player thing now.
Oh,
It's where they want to get people involved.
Which is great.
It's great. When I started Magic, I was like, I don't know, going to a shop? That seems weird. Let's just buy some packs or some cards and play at the kitchen table. That's what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
But yeah, go out to the shop and play, because that's awesome.
Now, do you think it's fair to say that... I just lost my train of thought.
Excuse me.
So
sealed.
So some people think that sealed has... Not that it's harder, but that it has a higher skill cap, is what I've heard.
Yes, that's kind of where I was trying to go with this question.
Most of the pros say the opposite, that draft is the higher skill.
Really? I've heard some pros say the opposite of that, which is just that, not that one is harder than the other, just that in sealed, I've heard some pros say that, you know, practice at sealed, improving your skills at sealed will improve your win percentage higher than practice and draft will.
Really? That's not what I've heard. It's interesting.
So, well, again, everybody has different opinions. I think, honestly, based on which they prefer.
Yeah. So, I talked to a grinder at the GP.
Yeah.
And he plays a lot of poker. And he thought that the closed randomness of sealed, meaning that everything is... there in front of you, led to more variance than the open randomness of a draft where everyone's on the same level.
That sounds right to me.
It does sound right. And he also made the point that the people who are really good at sealed usually also have buys because they play a lot of Magic anyway, so that's why they get higher in the rankings, which, okay, maybe. But the way I look at it, the way I feel about it, draft is like dancing. And sealed is more like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. Both things are rewarding activities, but they're completely different.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds right. Like, draft is very social, both in the sense that you're working with, you know, you're with 7 people. In our shop, people can get chatty, even though it does annoy me when they start announcing what they're picking in, you know, completely unsubtle ways. Like, oh, look at this green and white bomb that I drafted that makes caps when you exert it. You know, that sort of thing. It's really annoying. Like, dude, it is supposed to be quiet time now. But you are also working together with those 7 people's... you know, you're supposed to be doing it,
or sometimes working against
in such a fashion that everybody builds the best decks possible for their seat. Like, that is the point of draft. If everybody has the best decks, then it really comes down to skill level.
Yeah,
both in building the decks, but also in playing the decks. Whereas in sealed, it's kind of like solitaire, which you get there, you open your packs, you build your deck. Nobody else is involved until you actually go to play a game.
Yeah, and I like that almost architectural kind of experience of how can I put this together the best possible way.
Is it your favorite format?
Sealed?
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite format?
My favorite format is Team Sealed.
My
absolute favorite format is Team Sealed.
My favorite format is Solo Sealed. I like Team Sealed too, but definitely all by myself. opening up the packs. I love everything about it. The sorting the cards, the anticipation of seeing what you have, the realization that everything sucks so hard. And then being like, okay, but curve matters.
So that's another thing. Considerations in sealed versus draft.
Yes.
Top considerations in sealed: curve, removal,
Oh, yeah.
evasion.
And bombs.
Yeah, like bombs or evasion. So the BREAD acronym really matters in sealed.
Yeah.
Especially removal, because the person with more removal more often wins.
Yeah. Or if you just
Or
have
better.
an alternate win condition, like mechanized production or something.
Maybe.
Just saying.
Whereas in draft, those things matter, but you can easily just throw curve out the window and craft some monstrosity.
Yeah, and in draft, honestly, I mean, it's true in sealed as well, but in draft, sometimes synergy will just get you there.
Yep. And that's format dependent too.
Absolutely.
But sealed tends to be far less format dependent.
Yeah, I think that's true.
In that removal is always your best option. Playing your best removal is usually going to win you more games in sealed.
Now, has your experience found that people tend to play maybe cards that they less should be playing in sealed because now's the time to try these kooky, crazy, random cards?
I think, honestly, I think in draft, it's easier to stop yourself from taking those cards in the first place. You'll be like, I could run this Nicol Bolas, but I am in green-white, and this is pack 2. I probably shouldn't. And then you pass it.
Yeah.
And it's not in your face going, play me. You can splash it sealed. Everything's slower and sealed. Who cares about consistency, mana base, or anything like that? So I honestly think that it can be. On the other hand, if it's your first pack, you're, I think, sometimes more likely to take it and play it. Just because you're like, surely I can draft this deck. If nobody else is in it, it'll just come right to me.
Silly girl.
That happens on occasion. Sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think that I have ever personally built a worse deck in sealed than I would have if it was the equivalent draft. That having been said, like, if I first picked a mechanized production or I found one in my sealed deck, I would be like, oh,
Sure,
I want to play that.
I'm already in blue, right?
But I do think that people are more likely to play all of their bombs in sealed, splash them out.
Yeah, and that can be a mistake, although it could also be correct.
Depends on how much splashing and fixing you have.
Yeah.
If I have to choose between better bombs and better removal, I'm going to play my better removal.
That's true, but if you had a choice between better bombs and better removal or staying true colors, are you more likely to splash?
I am absolutely more likely to splash or go straight 3 colors.
Yeah.
And I'm more likely to bow to consistent mana base and a nice curve, because I have had so much trouble in the last couple of years with mana being consistent. Like, my variance level has been ridiculous, so...
The last 2 formats have been or 3 formats, I guess, at this point, have been very curve dependent in sealed and leaning toward aggressive.
Yeah. So just really quickly going back to a point that you made, Steph, earlier. So let's say that you are dropped into a format, you've never played it before, you don't know much about, you haven't really been following the spoilers. Which do you think you'll do better at, sealed or draft?
Ooh, sealed.
Sealed.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
I think just because the rules of sealed that we're talking about
Bombs, removal,
are less set dependent or variance dependent. If I can play a deck in any format that has, a good curve, then that's what I'm going to do. If I can play a deck in any format that has 3 or 4 good pieces of removal, then that's the deck I'm playing.
For me, when you're drafting, when you don't know anything, you're evaluating one card in a vacuum. You don't know where it sits amongst everything else. But when you're given a bunch of cards, and if you have any experience with card evaluation, you can kind of look through and look at all your removal and be like, okay, let's look at all of the power and toughness in my creatures here. Okay, this is a decent removal spell. But when you're looking at it and you haven't seen anything yet, it's really hard to judge well. So I think I'm going to do much better being given everything and having time to look at it.
And then...
Sorry.
I was just going to say my next point was kind of, again, related to that, which is just, I think one of the key skills in Sealed that is something that is practice dependent is reevaluating cards. Because I think in Draft, generally speaking, a good card is a good card, a bad card is a bad card, and a medium card is something you'll play if you need a card.
Okay.
Whereas I think in Sealed, a good card might be a bad card for your deck. I think that a bad card might be a good card for your deck.
Are you talking about things like hand attack are better in Sealed, or is that...
No, I just mean, mechanized production might be a terrible card in Draft, unless you pick one it.
Okay.
For random example, but, it could be great in your deck in Sealed.
So, like, the synergies are going to be self-evident in your pool if you're looking at all your cards.
Right, but I think sometimes people kind of get stuck on, oh, well, this card... it's everyone says it's bad, so I'm just not even going to look at it. Instead of going, this card is generally bad. Does it do anything for my deck?
You mean like my Scarab card? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I think that is a practice-dependent skill, is just, paying attention to those voices in your head saying, but Ella gave this an F. I shouldn't even think about running it. Versus,
they've been wrong in the past.
That's a really good point, and I think it bears reiterating on a larger scale. And I think we've talked about this before when we've talked about pros and whatnot, is we as players, especially ones that are trying to push higher up, who are, kind of middle of the road players who are trying to get even better, we can tend to have a tendency to listen to the professionals and the people who have all of the views on YouTube or whatever, so they know all the content.
Sure, or if you just don't have time to make your own decisions about each card, each set.
But just because we are not at their level yet does not mean that one of us, not necessarily us three, but one of us, rando person, is not the next great brewer. So maybe we see something that they don't, or maybe in our meta in the store, this actually may be a playable card because of the other things going on. So it's not always great. It's nice to listen to the people who know a lot and then take what they say. But if you really think that something else is the case, to try it out.
Yeah, or sometimes they just misread a format, which is understandable. It's really hard to judge, how fast a format's going to be or whatever, just based on the spoilers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But then you go into the Sealed and you're like, oh, crap, this is a super quick format. I'm not going to have time to do all these things that somebody else said were a really good idea. That sort of thing. So I think, some people like Sealed more than they like Draft, which is okay. Yeah. Some people like Draft more than they like Sealed.
That's what's so magic about this game, is that there are so many different formats.
I think that even within a smaller subcategory of Magic, such as Limited, there's, two very different formats.
Which is really cool.
And there are different ways of playing in each of these formats. And
I'm wondering if I should send this Earthshaker Kenra token to Alex Stacey.
I think he'll probably have found one by now, since all he needed to do was buy the bundle and get one of each of the tokens.
Yeah.
Wow. He really didn't think of that. Oh, well.
So, I think that's it for our longest episode so far.
Yeah.
Is it? Maybe. Well, thanks so much for joining us this week for our varied conversation about this game we love.
If you have any in-depth thoughts about Sealed, Draft, or both, let us know.
Yep. Absolutely. You can always contact us via the YouTube channel, the blog, the Twitter,
the Facebook, or the email.
There you go.
All of the things.
Maybe you should be doing this end of things spiel.
Maybe.
Anyway, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Thanks for spending time with us.
And enjoy your week.